Well, hello, good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you are tuning in from. Welcome back to Race Talks Uncut. I'm Charles Jackson, your host, and I'm really excited to be with you again. We have folks tuning in now internationally. We have folks watching us live on our Roku TV channel. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and I'm really excited how this show has taken off for season 2. We want to sit down each week and pass the mic to bold and courageous change champions. They help us unpack culture, systemic racism, racial disparities, heritage, and more. We're all one race. I'll continue to say this throughout this show and this season. We're all one race, and although we have our differences, those differences should not divide us. We should celebrate them, rather shun them and hate them. And my personal plea as a person of color, I don't want to be feared or viewed as a threat to society or just tolerated any longer, treated any differently, especially in a way that is inhumane simply because of the color of my skin, especially in those social contexts and constructs that are supposed to protect and treat everyone with equality and fairness as we pursue life and liberty. And so we want to connect each week to come together to challenge the status quo and together crush systemic racism. And this week just adds another layer to our culture cloth. If you're not familiar with me, I am Charles Jackson, the founder of Charles Jackson Media. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a Marine, entrepreneur, but I'm an individual who has the pleasure to sit across each week from change champions. Because we saw the civil unrest, the social unrest, we see the divides that we are experiencing. And I feel that it takes open dialogue, conversations, candid, courageous, sometimes difficult conversations. And so I wanted to create a space where individuals can come in and we can be vulnerable. We can share, we can raise awareness to certain issues with the hopes that at the end of the day, we can come together and live as we ought to, and that is adding value to one another's lives and not taking away from one another. So today I'm honored to sit down with Samara Andrews. She is an accountant, a finance coach, tax strategist, and a bookkeeper, QuickBooks expert. But she's going to help us tonight because her passion is to help people in businesses become financially savvy. We understand that the racial inequalities affect multiple layers, many layers of society. And one of them is wealth, the ability to obtain wealth. And that's what we're going to cover tonight. Some of those disparities and wealth gaps that are experienced amongst the races. And we're going to unpack that. And so I'm going to bring her to the stage. She's going to talk about, how we can move the needle forward in terms of closing that gap. So I want to go ahead and transition without further ado and bring Samara to the stage. Let me go and grab her from backstage. Bear with me 1 second. All right, there we go. Hey, Samara, how you doing?
Hey, Charles, how are you?
I'm doing very well. I am so honored that you accepted my invitation tonight to come and have a discussion with me, talking about wealth and Black generational wealth. And as a financial expert, we all at some point deal with money. And so, hey, right. You're going to be our teacher tonight in the world of finance, but also just want to have a real candid conversation with you about some of those things that are going on in terms of race relations and how we are seeing those disparities. So welcome to the show. How was your day? How are you feeling? I hope you are excited to be here.
I am very excited. Can you hear me okay? I just want to make sure everybody can hear me.
Yeah, so if you're out there in the chat, go ahead and let us know that you can hear us well. Thank you for those already tuning in. But give us a thumbs up. I always say, shout down our guests, send them the hearts, those emojis, thumbs up, hand claps, please whatever it is, and questions, because this is a conversation for all. Kind of like a talk show, right? You and I just get to have a talk, and every now and then we'll ask the audience, so what do you think about that, right? But first I want to start and have you share with everyone, instead of I don't like to ask the guests, tell us what you do. I'll start like this. what passion, what purpose are you currently passionately walking in and fulfilling? And how are you doing
Right.
that? Yeah, let's go there.
So I guess I kind of stumbled into my passion. So I
Okay.
never thought myself to be a teacher, right? Like I've always been in the accounting field for over like 14 years now. I've been an accountant. And so, with that being said, we're kind of people that like to keep to ourselves, right? Like,
Okay.
we are good and familiar with numbers, we're comfortable with numbers, but not so much, interacting with people. And so, I never thought myself to be a teacher, but here recently, I found myself wanting to teach, especially small business owners, the things that big businesses use.
Okay.
And so that's where the tax strategy and the tax planning comes in. And I mean, I do that thing to the end. When I tell you, I'll have clients that'll come and ask me questions. And if I'm not familiar with it, like I'm going to read up on it because I'm like, come on, let's go get this money, right?
Right.
And so, again, it was just something that I stumbled upon, but it's something that I truly try to put first and foremost now. I don't want to just, collect a service fee from my client. Like I want to educate them, right? And that's why I do my Let's Talk Tuesdays because it's all about education. It's all about teaching. I truly believe in the scripture, about my people will perish for lack of knowledge. And so that's how I feel. So I think the more informed we are, the more we learn, the more we know, like the more we can do, the more we can grow.
And the name of your company?
Yeah, it's FYE Finance. So I think you have the website below. Yeah, FYEfinance.com. Please feel free to visit the website after I talk. We
Yeah, don't go over there right now.
we
Don't start, bro.
Yeah, don't go right now. We need you to stay put. We need you to learn. Um, but yeah, please feel free to visit the website. Like I said, I have over 14 years of accounting experience working for Fortune 500 companies. I won't name them all, but it definitely has been a great experience in which I wasn't siloed. So I
Mm,
got to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
hmm.
And so my clients benefit from that experience and that skill set. So yeah.
Okay. And we are honored to have you tonight, because I have to be candid. I was much older and later in life that I really became, I don't know, not financial savvy, but financially literate, I guess is the right word to use, right? And it was in the Marine Corps that I really became knowledgeable about savings and retirement and all that kind of stuff. And, to kind of give the backstory, which is why I really wanted to have this conversation. I think a lot of what we are lacking in our community is that literacy part.
Right.
There are some inequalities, and we'll talk about those. There are some systemic racism issues that have contributed to it generation after generation. But I also think there is a lack of knowledge. And so growing up for me, my dad, he put his money and wrapped it up in duct tape and was saving it in the closet in cans and bottles. There was no going to the bank. Now he was saving it. He worked, he made his money, and then, he saved it, but it wasn't in a bank or anything like that. And so I guess I knew the importance of saving, but talking about putting it in an account that's going to earn interest and all of that stuff, that wasn't there. And so
There you go.
I wasn't doing any of those things, retirement and all of that stuff. I was in the Marine Corps, and I had an officer who I was having a conversation with him about health insurance. And he was kind of older, and I asked him why he was still serving the Marine Corps. His body was kind of beat up a little bit. And he said, well, health insurance is almost unaffordable in the civilian sector. So as a reservist, he gets health insurance. It's family of 5. It's very affordable for him. So that's why he continued to serve. And I thought, man, nobody even talked to me about these things, health insurance and trying to afford it and saving up for it and all of that stuff. So I talk about that literacy piece. It was much older. I was much older before I got into all of that. But I want to start right here, understanding that the reality is, yes, there is a wealth gap. And why do you feel like there is a wealth gap, or what's a wealth gap? Help us with that. Because for me, I think a lot of it is that literacy piece, but let's just dive right into that right off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. There is a wealth gap. And for a while, I got upset with the people of color, with us, right? Because I
Okay.
feel like we're spenders, right? So we accumulate things that we want, but not necessarily as passionate about saving and investing for our futures. And I thought that, hey, we're like the biggest spenders in America because that's what media would allow you to think.
Mm-hmm.
But that's actually not the case. Where the wealth gap comes in at is, not only are we big spenders, not the biggest, but then we also don't have the amount of income coming into our household
Okay.
as the biggest spenders. Okay. So where we're spending, I think it was when I looked it up, $1 trillion, right? That's our buying power as people of color. African Americans have
Mm-hmm.
buying power of $1 trillion, okay, for the year of 2019. But then when you look at our household income, 46,000.
Mm. Is
You
that
see
like
where
the average or median, or that's wow?
No, that's low when you think about
Oh,
our brothers of the Caucasian persuasion
okay.
and our Asian brothers and sisters. I mean, their average median is 88,000. So already the salary gap is there, right?
Yeah.
And I have witnessed that personally. I remember when I moved to Georgia,
Okay.
right? It was That was my first experience of, hey, you know what? You got to ask for what you want, Samara, right? And so I think as women, especially, and then probably also as a person of color, when you're afforded certain opportunities, you're just grateful, right? And so
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you don't want to ask for too much,
Ask for
right?
more.
Like you don't want to push it. And
And I think
so,
that comes from that's passed down too. Our parents and their parents are just happy to have a job. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. Just go to work, keep your head down, which was
right,
adding to the problem. So, but go ahead.
it adds to the gap. And so, what I started to see, right, I started to pay attention to my other counterparts who were white males and started to see like how they're climbing the ladder, right? So I said,
Okay.
And then I talked to a friend. That's another thing. Aligning yourselves with people who are going to push you to the next level.
Mm,
That will help, like shorten that wealth gap as well. Because if
okay.
you think differently, right, then you can start making actions or putting things into play that will help
Hell.
just decrease that wealth gap.
Okay.
Okay, so I had a friend. Her husband was a lawyer, and I remember when I started, and we're just chatting, and so she was like, yeah, so did you negotiate your vacation time? Did you negotiate this? Did you negotiate that? And I was like, no, I just took the package they gave me. She
Right.
was like, everything's negotiable. When
Wow.
she told me that, that changed my whole attitude towards what I ask for when I'm going to work for somebody. And
Wow.
so I started to close that salary gap for myself.
Okay.
Um, and that's those principles, like we could all do that. Like, don't just take what they ask, everything's negotiable. Okay, everything.
And so, examples of everything you just said, benefits
Yeah.
packet.
Yeah, so I remember I sat down with my latest employer. We'll get into why I say
Okay.
that here. But I sat down with my latest employer, and I was leaving a job where I had 3 weeks vacation time, right? They had a good retirement plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they also had good healthcare benefits. So healthcare benefits are pretty much set in stone, but you can kind of pick which one is going to work best for you, right? And we can get into that too. But when you talk about vacation, like that's totally negotiable.
Mm.
And I did not know this, right? But coming into that position, it was just standard that you got 2 weeks. It was standard. And when other people found out I had three, they were like, "How did you get three?" I said, "I asked for it
Wow.
and they gave it to me."
Right, right.
Um, yeah, and so it's mind blowing. Like then you start to think. Like I remember, I started to think, why didn't I do this earlier? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Mm-hmm.
just started doing this maybe 6 years ago.
Okay.
But you think about me having a 14-year career in accounting, all that time that I wasted. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Right.
could have been further along. I could
Yes,
have
ma'am.
closed that wealth gap a lot sooner and been contributing more to like retirement and savings and whatnot. So again, one step to closing that wealth gap is just negotiate. Negotiate that salary. Everything's negotiable.
I went into jobs and I just wanted to know how much I was getting paid an hour. I
No.
wasn't not asking, hey, do I have health insurance? And again, this was before the Marine Corps. The military opened my eyes to because all that was afforded to me. And my friends and other people around me would say, man, you just get to go to the dentist. I'm like, yeah. Or you just need to get sick, you go get your medication. It's covered, right? And as my friends in the civilian sector would talk about how lucky or blessed I am and fortunate that I don't have to pay for these things or worry about these things, then I begin to realize. So I would go into a job prior to the Marine Corps and it was just really how much I was getting paid. And I even had opportunities to take salaried positions versus, hourly and not understanding the difference or being able to weigh the pros and cons. I think that affected me as well. But you think about something as simple as the vacation days, putting into retirement. They ask, do you want to contribute to a 401k? What does that mean? Well, a certain amount of money is going to go here. Nah, I need it all now, because I'm young. I'm trying to go out. Just did not know. Just did not
Right,
know.
right.
And so, yeah, I made those decisions based on the knowledge that I had, which is why individuals like yourself are so important.
Can we touch on the 401k thing? Because, okay, so
Yeah.
let me tell you. So, I had a friend who was in her 30s, right, when I met her.
Okay.
Okay. And I should say I have a friend. She was in her 30s when I met her, and she had not contributed to a 401k or retirement plan. And I always tell people, I said, no, you absolutely have to do that. I said, listen, our company matches you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Dollar for dollar up to 6%. So at the very bare minimum, contribute to the match. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
contribute
Right.
at least 6% so you
Up to
can get
that.
your dollar for dollar match. Um, because when you don't do that, like you're just leaving money on the table. Like they're
Yeah.
literally giving you money just for
Yeah.
saying, "Hey, I'm thinking about my retirement."
Here
So,
you go.
I mean, but it's mind blowing to
Yeah.
me that we don't start early, and
Early.
it's because, like you said, you just didn't know because maybe your parents didn't have conversations like that with you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you didn't have a circle of friends that were talking about things like that. I'm fortunate being in this field that most of my friends do what I do, you
Okay.
know? So, where we're very comfortable about talking about finances, some people just aren't
Or not.
because they just don't know, right?
No. Yeah.
But that's my passion. I want to get everybody comfortable about talking about finances. That's all financial literacy is
Yeah.
how comfortable you are with finances. It's the same as reading. When you're literate and you can read, you're comfortable
You're comfortable
communicating,
doing it.
right?
Yes.
That's
So
it.
Casey asked, should you research the company and their hiring packages, maybe their benefits package, kind of compare them? I
That's hard to do. And I say that because in the private sector, they usually don't put that on display,
got it.
right? it's kind of like, it's just something that they keep secret until you say, okay, I want to move forward, or at least I want to interview. Now, Casey, I have asked for it. So in the interview process, or when they provided me with an offer letter, I said, okay, can I see my full compensation package? That's the terminology that I use. I don't want to just know salary. I want to
Hmm.
know what my full compensation package is going to look like. So that's retirement, that's your health insurance, that's vacation, that's your salary, that's even short term and long term disability. I want to know what that entire compensation package looks like.
Wow. Good question and good answer. Yes, I asked that after, knowing to in an interview, and I said, yeah, let's talk about the compensation package. And I could tell the individual was impressed that I'd even asked that question. So
Right, right.
um, let's talk about wealth first. Before I ask this question, tell us, is wealth and say financial freedom? Because for a while, that's all I was trying to achieve, just financial freedom,
Right.
like financial peace. Is wealth and financial freedom the same thing, interchangeable, one and the same? Let's answer that first, and then we're going to go into this next.
So I think it puts you on the path. So financial freedom puts you on the path to building wealth.
Okay.
And I say that because it sounds like you went through the Dave Ramsey program. I
I did.
myself went through the Dave Ramsey program as well. And so, Dave said he teaches you rice and beans, right? Until you get out of
Right.
debt. That's what you eat, rice and beans. And so, once you get out of debt, then what you have is more money, more disposable income, if you will, to push towards items that's going to help generate wealth, right?
Okay.
That's going to help build more wealth. So I think it's on the path. Like if I had to
Okay.
describe it, like it's on the path.
Yeah, that makes sense. So wealth then being like your worth in terms of the assets and what's maybe in your 401k or your stocks or your IRA and all of that stuff compared to what's going out with
Absolutely.
the debt, right? Okay. S-
Okay, so Brother Charles, you know a little something, huh?
Okay. So I
Okay.
watch, Tuesdays with FYE Finance. I'm like a scholar. I'll be there with my notes, which is why it's easy for
I
me to have
hear
this
you.
conversation because I can just go back all my notes, say, all right. But I want to get into this, the heart of this discussion.
Hmm.
How, in your opinion, has let's say the dominant race being white,
Hmm.
what advantages have they had in terms of being able to build wealth and pass down wealth, which I've learned that the transfer of wealth is actually the biggest way in which people actually become wealthy in life. I've read that several places,
Yep.
in my research. So that transfer of wealth.
Yep.
So what has been the advantage that they've had that made us disadvantaged? And I kind of have my opinion, but I would love to hear from you what's contributing outside of just the literacy piece we've already talked about, because this is
So
race
you know
talks.
what? Right. So you know what I shouldn't say they, but others seem to do a lot better than people of color is planning for the hereafter, right?
Okay.
Life insurance. How many of us have it? And then how many of us have enough coverage? And so when you think about life insurance, right, especially if you're the breadwinner of the family, right, your life insurance should pay every last debt that you owe, including your home, including that full mortgage. Um,
Hmm.
and it should also give people a nice little, cushion, right? So you should pay off your debt and make sure that you're leaving a start for whomever you're leaving behind. Okay. So when you think about things like that, I don't know that we do that as much as our counterparts. I don't know. Me, myself personally, I do. I have several insurance policies
Right.
because I want to make sure that if something were to
Yeah.
happen to me, my husband, my children, they are covered. Like they wouldn't have to work if they didn't want to. Do you get
Wow.
what I'm saying?
I do.
So your policies don't go out here and get little $100,000, $200,000 policies if you know you have a mortgage, you own a home that's like 260. I mean, what is that going to do? It
Yes.
can't even pay for your funeral costs after that.
Okay. All right. So that's one way. So I was having a conversation with this sibling. You know, she was talking about reparations. What are reparations and what is that all about? And why are we asking for that? How is that going to help us? You know, and she said, I sit in the class right next to, you know, my friends who may be white and I'm getting the same education. I kind of have the same opportunities as them, you know, help me understand this. And I kind of was sharing with her how, you know, my father, his father, his father, after we came out of slavery, we came out with nothing. And back then, which even now we see land, but especially then, land was like outside of black people, land was like the greatest thing you can own asset, right? Land, because you could borrow on the land, you could build on the land, you could farm on the land, you had agriculture and produce and all of that. We came out with nothing, and we're now working and living, competing, you know, aside along people who have that. They at least had that. They had land. Some of them had businesses now at this point, and they're transferring that to their children and so forth and so on. Land gets transferred. Homes get transferred. Homes that are paid off free and clear get transferred. They go into that now ahead of you because they at least they had land and they had a house. And then we try and get some of that stuff and it gets taken away. We tried to build wealth. We saw Black Wall Street. We come back, the GI Bill for those who served, and we don't get all of that that is due to us. We go through Jim Crow, and we see time and time again when we've tried to catch up. But the problem I told her I see is even that young lady that you're sitting next to in the class who, yeah, you say you're having the same opportunities in terms of education. Her parents may own some type of bakery. Her parents may leave her a house, or her parents had a college fund for her.
Right.
So she's been set up already to go to college and then go debt free, or she offset that with a scholarship. Whereas you got full on college debt because you took out loans, or, you know, there wasn't enough of the, you know, the Pell Grants and things. I said stuff like that generation after generation keep us from closing the gap, right? Because of how our grandfathers and great grands started and all of that. And so that's to me been the biggest thing with us trying when, you know, in terms of reparations and all of that. But so understanding that, right? Understanding that in your eyes, what do we do other than educating ourselves now? What else needs to be done? Do you believe in like reparations? Would you like to see that? Do we take action on our own? What's your opinion on that?
Here's the thing. I feel like we've already proven with the buying power that we have the ability to support one another and kind of like make our own reparations, right?
Okay.
Like not necessarily needing a handout, but just give us the freedom to do it without anybody interrupting the process. That's my first and foremost thing. So I feel like when you mentioned, right, Black Wall Street, that process was interrupted because we were thriving, right?
Yes.
And so it showed that we had the ability to do it, but it's like, oh, they're thriving. Put a stop on that, interrupted the process. So I don't necessarily think that we need so much aid. I feel like we just need them to not interrupt the process. And you make a good point. So home ownership, right? There was an act, I don't know, I think it was passed in the 60s around where like the civil rights acts were being passed. And it's the home lending act, right? Because what was happening is banks were discriminating, okay, against African Americans trying to get loans for home, okay? If you study, you're right, Charles, I 100% agree. People that have land, right, they have a leg up. Home ownership is a big thing. That is a major step into you building generational wealth. Okay. Some people will tell you, nah, you don't need that. I was talking to my son the other day, and I said, do you know how interest works? And he was like, no, not really. I said, okay. So interest can be good and it can be bad. I said, when you think about inflation, right, all it means is that it costs more to make this one thing tomorrow than it does today. So you go back to when you were a child. How much could you go to the store and spend $5 on, like, what could you get? Some candy, a honey bun, a soda. You could go
$5.
crazy with
Oh yeah,
$5, right?
$5. I would get 4 quarters, and I would walk out with a couple pieces of candy, a soda, and some chips with 4
You
quarters.
see? Now today, you go into the gas station with $5. What are you getting, Brother Charles?
Right.
What are you getting? You see?
Not much under 5.
Because now it costs more to make that thing. And so I was telling him, just like inflation is bad in that sense, right? It could be a good thing when you think about owning property. So you bought this house 10 years ago. Let's call it, the value is 200,000, right?
Okay.
And things start building up around your home. The schools get better, right? Now that property value is being pushed up. Okay. And so it works in your favor. So
Yes.
now homes in your neighborhood that are being built, maybe they're being built now at 300,000. You bought yours for 2. Already you got $100,000 in equity.
Yes, ma'am.
And so it's important. Home ownership is vital and it's important. So I'm glad you brought that point up. I love the point about, helping give your kids a head start. Unfortunately, I did what probably a lot of people did, right? I went in debt trying to get my education. Okay. So I took out loans to fund my education. And so I don't want people to do that. Like, I want you to be smarter about it. I did a whole topic about different ways that you can get your education without having to go into debt. And so absolutely, parents, start planning for your kids. I mean, when they're babies, it's not too early to start a fund or some type of Roth account, for their education. You don't want them to go into debt. You don't want them with that hanging over their head.
So you talked about planning for our kids, and we had a question come in from Richard Henfield. He's asking, what age should we start talking to our kids about money and wealth and, just the minute they can count 4 quarters or what? When do we get engaged? And tell us, how was it in your household? Because I want individuals through this show to connect with the person, on the other side of the camera and their culture and how it was for them growing up. Because all of those experiences have shaped us. And you said, you wasn't always planning to be an accountant, but what age should we start talking about with our kids about it? And how was it in your household communicating about finances?
So I had a very a unique experience growing up, right? So my dad actually did taxes on the side.
Okay.
So I grew up always remembering that and seeing that. So we would talk about finances. We would talk about taxes. I remember when I got my first job, my dad made me sit down and do my entire tax return. And so I was like, Daddy, I don't understand these laws. Like, I don't know what I'm reading. Like, but he was like, no, I want you to understand. I want you to feel comfortable with it. And so at an early age, I was introduced to finances and how the world works. Like, on my live the other day, use games. My mom and my dad would play Monopoly with us. Okay. And my mom wouldn't let us win. Like, she wanted us to understand, you got to remember to collect your payday. You got to have money to buy property. I'm just saying.
He said she would not let you win.
No, she would not let us win. She was like, the world is not going to let you win. So she was like, she's not going to let us win. But we didn't understand, right, the full level of what she was trying to teach us, but it actually was a benefit, right? Seeing
Okay.
that this is how it works. You need money. You got to save money. You got to be strategic about where you spend your money, when you spend your money, so that your money can work for you. So I would say, hey, when they are old enough to play games like that,
Mm-hmm.
my daughter actually used to help me clip coupons, okay,
Okay.
when she was like 5. So I introduced her to like saving and budgeting at 5.
So get them involved
Like,
at the
right,
appropriate
get them
stage. There's
involved.
appropriate things at that level that we can
Absolutely.
do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
most kids think it's a game, you know what I'm saying? But
Right.
you're actually teaching something and it'll stick with them. Believe me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I still have nightmares about losing to my mom in Monopoly,
Right.
but I'm better for it. No, I'm just kidding.
We play so Rich Dad Poor Dad. I read those
Uh-huh.
books. I had the boys read the kids version of it, and we had the game. He built the game. It was called a Rat
Yeah.
Race, and we would play that game. And it's about investing in stocks and buying land and property. And once I realized that the whole, he's the real estate guy anyway, so it's all about
Right.
land and property and how you use it and how you sell it is what he was teaching. So no, all great points. Thanks for those questions.
Yeah.
How about because we were told as Black people we need to go and get education, and a lot of us did that.
Right.
We're going out, we're getting educated, and matter of fact, stats have shown that Black women are enrolling in universities and graduating at higher rates than all the other
Yeah.
groups. So shout out to my sisters. But yet and still, right, even though we're getting the education and we are moving up in tax brackets, we're
Right.
still not closing the gap. Would you say it's because of the debt that we are carrying based on how we went to school with the loans? Or would you say it's we're still trying to get around, maybe even the values of our homes not being appraised the same as others? Because there's still
Right.
something going on, even though we're getting the education, which is what they told us to do. But like you shared the numbers earlier, and when I looked at them, it's like night and day, almost like 50%.
It is.
So
Yeah, correct. It's a 50% difference. Correct.
yeah,
It's really bad. So I can only speak from I'm gonna speak from my personal experience. Okay.
okay,
So I myself, went and got the education because that's what my parents told me to do. After high school, you go to college, you get a degree. I even went as far as getting my MBA, right? And
okay,
so I did that in hopes that I can continue to climb the corporate ladder, right? That was my hope. I thought I have this education, I have this skill set, I'm going to climb this ladder. And what I met was opposition.
hmm
Okay. What I have been seeing is I hate using this term, but it is what it is. It's almost like a good old boy system, right? So if you don't play their game,
no,
doesn't
talk
matter how
about it.
much education you have.
Talk about
It
it.
doesn't matter how much skill set you have. It doesn't matter,
Right,
brother.
right.
And I got tired of playing the game. Right? I was exhausted. I was training people that didn't have the education that I had. Right? Didn't have the skill set that I had. I would train them, and then they would surpass me.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, because I don't go on the golfing trips,
hmm
you know,
Yeah.
because I don't, speak the same language you speak. And so it can be disheartening. Okay. But I will say, education at least gets you to the table, right? Because I do know, had I not had any education, I don't think I would even be considered. Whereas my counterparts, I had a lady one time and she called me. She knew I was an accountant. She knew I had worked for Caterpillar, and she was trying to get in at Caterpillar. And she was like, "Yeah, get this, I've been a controller for an organization for 10 years, and they closed down, and I don't have a place to go, and I'm trying to see if I can get in Caterpillar." I said, "Okay, what's your degree in?" "Oh, I don't have that." "You're a controller? You're over someone's books, like you're managing the books of a company, and you don't have a degree."
hmm
no, I don't. I said, well, ma'am, I'm letting you know right now, they're not even going to consider you.
Wow.
But it was baffling to me that she was given that opportunity with no degree.
Yeah. Wouldn't have probably played out like that for us. So
Absolutely not.
which is those things that companies are now coming to terms with, right? And great companies with great people are saying enough is enough. This is an issue. Let's do something about it. And we're having these type of conversations like you and I are having right now. And we're able to change that narrative, right? Where, like you were saying, even if you didn't go back, say there was no reparations, you didn't even cancel my debt or whatever, at least remove those systems. And this is my plea as well. Remove those systems right now that are in place that still put me at a disadvantage, hold me back, prevent me from achieving just like any man or any woman, no matter what racial group, we belong to. So no, I think that's a great point. We had some comments. Desiree said, amazing learning curve. What's his name here? James Hicks is talking about monopoly is the truth.
It is the truth, James.
Teaching the youth the value of yes. Train them up, train the child up as the way they should go. James said some folks are being tactical instead of strategic. So all great points. Thank you for all those who are in the comments. Absolutely. I'm going to pause for a second, Samara, to hear a word from our premier sponsor, and then I'm going to come back and ask you some more of those now practical steps that we can start implementing to be able to, again, increase our literacy. But this has been great so far. Please hold for me 1 second so we can hear from our sponsors.
Hello everybody, my name is JP Hatek. I am the founder of Content Creators University, and we are proud to be sponsoring Race Talks Uncut with Charles Jackson. For those of you who do not know me, I am a branding expert, cinematographer, and software developer. What I do is help businesses, entities, individuals, ministries, and so forth have a better impact with high quality visuals in regards to graphic design, professional videos, or even high quality live stream. So after 12 plus years in the industry, I've decided to open this digital master school. So what we do is every single week, we connect with one of the best minds and professionals in the tech and content creation industry. What they do is come on the platform and teach us how we can have a better value proposition, elevate our craft, and keep impacting with our creation. So if you're the type of person that want to keep growing, as we know, technology is an industry that is always evolving. Come and join me every week. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel, JP High Tech Reviews, or simply visit my website, jphighttech.com, or better yet, go ahead and download the Roku TV or Fire TV application. Simply look for JP High Tech, or visit the contentcreatorsuniversity.com for more. I am excited to connect with you and see you there. Bye-bye.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Race Talks Uncut. We are having a discussion with Samara Andrews about the wealth gap and building Black wealth and passing along generational wealth. She shared with us some of her personal upbringing in terms of how finances was talked about in her life and some ways we can get our kids involved at early stages with talking about finances and helping with the finances as they learn about saving and investing, playing games, getting them to cut out coupons. She shared some very practical things and what we can do to start really narrowing that wealth gap, even if there is no handout, no help from the government, no reparations, what we need to start doing. Also, before I bring her back, I want to announce that she has gifted us with a special tailored sort of digital package of financial solutions that we will be giving away. And so I want to thank her for that. And I'm going to go ahead and bring her back because I want you all to jump in the chat. Go ahead and start dropping in the chat hashtag Race Talks Uncut. That will put you in the drawing to be one of our maybe lucky winners for a suite of things. Actually, Samara, I'll let you tell them what's in that suite. I looked at the package earlier. It's a couple things in there.
Yeah, so we have some tools to help you with your budgeting, or we call it our money manager because people think budget is a dirty word. So we call it our money manager tool. And then we also have some tools to help you make sure that you're withholding enough from your taxes. Oh, you got it up on the screen right here. We have a DTI calculator, so that's a debt to income calculator. That's very important. And then we have our credit builder. Now, the credit builder is basically your net worth. Okay. So it's going to have your assets and then your liabilities. And I was going to jump into that topic,
Okay.
Charles, when we come back, but we'll talk about that.
We can go
more.
into it.
The withholding calculator is there. And we also have a business budget. So it looks sort of like a profit and loss statement for all of our business owners. So you get all of those tools. And we have within the tools itself, we have instructions on how to use the tools, even have some screenshots so that it's easy for you to just walk through them.
All right, cool. So hashtag Race Talks Uncut in the chat over on YouTube. If you're on YouTube or Facebook, you need to come over to YouTube because the team is monitoring on YouTube that we ask that you go ahead and subscribe. That's all you have to do to enter, be subscribed to the channel. We will check. Go ahead and put hashtag Race Talks Uncut in the chat. You're also, yes, go ahead.
There you go.
You're also going to give away a 30-minute strategy session. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. So look
correct.
at that.
I was about to
Two
remind
gifts.
you.
2 gifts tonight. Thank you so much. So we're going to have 2 lucky winners tonight. We can't give everybody both. So we'll do 1 and 1. Is that okay?
That's fine.
All right. So, all right. Or do you want to? How do you want to do that? It's up to you.
Hey, it's up to you. It's your show. I am just giving.
All right. So I want to do this. And if I need to cover some costs, I will. Let's do a 30-minute strategy call and the suite of tools for this individual, right?
Cool.
Okay.
Sounds
Let's
good.
do it like that. All right. So that's cool. Let's see. The chat is run. All right. So talk about the tool you wanted to mention. It was.
Yeah. So, what was it? My credit builder.
Credit builder.
Right. So, when you're talking about closing that wealth gap, right? You first have to know specifically what you are worth, right?
Okay.
And so the only way you know that is if you sit down with a tool like our credit builder to see what are our assets and what are our liabilities. So when you think about an asset, that's something that means value. Okay, so it's worth something. So your home, right, could be considered an asset. Even your car could be considered an asset, right? So it has some value associated with it. And then when you think about liabilities, that's the money that you owe to somebody. So it's basically you couldn't afford, right, certain things. So you had to take out a loan and pay it over time. Okay. And so you want to make sure that you have a clear picture of where you are, because how can you get better if you don't know where to start?
Right.
So that's why that is very important. That's like the first thing that I tell clients to do, like sit down and figure out your net worth. And I explain it to them just like that. It's very simple, right? When you break it down. And then the next thing is you want to make sure you know the money that's coming in and the money that's going out. So that's why it's important to have that budget, that money manager there, so that you can see, hey, this is what I got coming in. This is what I got going out. Hopefully you have more coming in than you have going out.
Okay.
That's the hope.
Right.
So those tools kind of help, you get on your path towards financial literacy and closing that wealth gap.
That brings me to my next question, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs in the chat, some whom I'm acquainted with, and I know that they run business, small business, whether it's online in the digital space, but we have a lot of business owners. Bookkeeping, right? Why is bookkeeping and knowing where you're at? Because you offer bookkeeping services. I saw it on the site. Why is that so important for Black business owners to maintain our books?
So it's important to make sure that you are not overpaying in taxes. So I'm going to give you a very specific scenario. I had a client who came to me, and she came to me right before tax season, right? So already we're scrambling, right?
Right.
So had not been managing her books.
Okay.
Had not been managing her books. She was managing it herself with QuickBooks. Okay. And so when I looked at her revenues, I was like, oof, those are kind of inflated, but maybe this is the business. I don't know the business, right? So I do a deep dive, and I find out that she was double counting her revenues because of how she was recording it in the system. Okay. It would have cost her $20,000 in additional tax liability had I not corrected that problem.
Wow.
Right. Wow. She signed with me that day. She was like, okay, yeah, you don't have to prove it anymore.
All right. So you hear that, folks. Bookkeeping, and even break that down to like a personal budget though. Like, I mean, we don't balance checks or, like that checkbook like we normally would, but we still need to balance our checkbook, and we need to have a budget, right? Because we need to know where that money is going.
Absolutely. Like that's why we called it the money manager, because you have to manage your money. You have to tell your money what you wanted to do. Like, there should never be a time where you're going somewhere and you're like, oh, let me check my checking account and see if I can afford that. No, if you're managing your money and you're keeping a budget and you're sticking to that budget, like, you should know at all times, like, where your money is going and how much you have in your checking account. And it's vital that you do that, like, every month, reset it, right? Do a new budget. And then that way you can start paying debt off, right? When you have a good budget in place, and then you can start using that money that you were pushing to that debt to either pay off more debt or to start saving and investing. So now you're making your money work for you. Okay. So it's important, both in personal and in business.
So awesome. The Black community, we've been stretching dollars for a good little while. All of the sayings that go along with our robbing Peter to pay Paul, and
right.
Don't got a pot to pee in the window to throw it out of, all of those different sayings about money. Right. My dad used to say something about rubbing two nickels together. I don't know what that means, but us trying to stretch that dollar, how can we apply that same concept to saving and really growing money or making our money work for us, the little money we do have? The answer is probably not roll it up in duct tape like my dad was doing and put it in the closet, because it's not doing anything for me, right?
No. So a savings account usually returns you something like 0.6, maybe 1% if it's a really good savings account, right? CDs about 1 to 3%. And so certificate deposits, right? So those usually you have to keep them for a year or more. And then they'll mature and you can withdraw from them. But what I do personally, I'm a person where I like to kind of set it and forget it when it comes to my savings. And so I'll have a portion of my check already allocated to be withdrawn and pushed into an Acorns account. Okay. Acorns is a really cool app. Yep. Acorns is a really cool app you can download, and it makes saving so easy. Because I think what happens is we pay ourselves last. Like, when you're saving, you're paying yourself. That's how you have to think about it. Okay. And I think most times we pay ourselves last because it's like we're not managing our money, so we don't have any more money to pay ourselves.
But
if you're managing your money, making your money do what you want it to do, then you would make sure that you're also paying yourself. Okay. And so you can use Acorns. You can set it up to say, hey, take $5 out of my account every week. You can also turn on what they call roundups. So every
Okay.
time, you swipe that card, it'll round it up to the next dollar and it'll push that to your Acorns account. But it's a really cool tool. That's what I told my oldest to do. I said, hey, listen, you off in college, you using that debit card, like make that money work for you. So download this app, do me this favor, download this app and start using this to help you save. Okay? So,
All right. But
yeah.
I was reading the comments. Wayne Andrews says, I have the best bookkeeper / accountant in ATL. Her name is Samara Andrews. Is that hubby all in the comments? Drop in the comments in the support. That's awesome. So what I want to do right now, I want you to share with us. I want to take a moment to go ahead and tally up and have the generator pull our winner. But I want you to talk about something because I've made a lot of money in my lifetime. And I would be a millionaire a couple times over the amount of money I made because I have worked in sales for a great portion of my life. And just even afterwards, I've been blessed with good jobs. I've, climbed the corporate ladder. I've made a lot of money, but I haven't kept a lot of money. And to me, that's the difference. And I want you to speak on that difference between, just making money, right, and keeping it, to actually be able to create wealth.
Right. So that's what I'm talking about paying yourself. So not only do you pay yourself in forms of savings and make it automatic so you are not tempted. Okay. And make it go to a whole nother account. That's why I use Acorns, right? So if I were ever to have to go into that savings account and make a withdrawal, it's not just a simple transfer. Okay. So make it difficult so that you don't have to touch that money if you're someone who is going to be tempted to touch that money. The first thing that I tell people to do, especially when you start this whole financial literacy journey, is establish an emergency fund because things are going to happen, right? And so what you don't want is to use that credit card to pay for an emergency. Like you want to have that fund there so that you're not further putting yourself into debt, further just, spending that money that you make. You want to be able to have that emergency fund there as a cushion so you can continue your process of saving and growing your wealth. Another way is the retirement planning. I cannot stress this enough. If you start your retirement fund in your 20s, you would be surprised. Like, how people play in the lottery, right? Spending the $1 to play the lottery, hoping they become a millionaire. You can make yourself a millionaire if you invest in a retirement fund at the age of 20. It's called compounding interest. It's your friend.
Okay. Compounding interest.
Yes, it's your friend. And so I tell people, like, do it early. Like with my kids personally, I've already started their retirement funds. They don't know it. Wow. And I won't tell them until they get a certain age. But I've already started it for them because that money is going to work harder for me the longer I have it in that account earning interest. Okay. Wow. So you have to, the earlier you start, the harder your money works for you. And then you won't feel like you, Charles, I did the same thing. Okay. Let me tell you, this is my older self. I wish my older self could go back in time. My 20-year-old self.
Yeah, because I mean, that compounding interest could have been working for me. And I probably could have retired a long time ago. I could have just been doing this full time, having these conversations.
Absolutely. And people are retiring in their 40s. Like, it's possible. You can do it. It just takes discipline, right? And definitely it takes you implementing a plan. You got to put that plan into action. Okay. You can't just say it. You can't just dream about it. Put those lottery tickets down and put a plan into action.
Don't be wishing on the stars.
No.
Take
Slow
this bull
and
by the
steady
ring.
wins the race.
Yeah.
Right. Slow and steady wins the race. I once read something that Warren Buffett, right? And we all know Warren Buffett, but he acquired his millions later in his life. It wasn't when he was a young boy in his 20s. It was later on. And that just goes to show you that time is on your side if you work the plan.
Wow.
So
Love it. Love it. Love it. This has been great. This has been great. Thank you. Thank you so much for the wealth of knowledge and information that you've shared. I want to go ahead and congratulate, and they're going to have to help us out here, Paramount Auto Sports. You are our winner tonight, but we need a name. We need a name. We need to know who we are speaking to.
Right.
I'll have you send me a DM. Again, I'm on social media at Charles Jackson Media. Send me a direct message. I'll get you in contact with Samara so that way you can claim your gift. But again, shout out to Paramount Auto Sports. Let us know in the chat who that is. Congratulations. Congratulations. Again, these packages, these tools that Samara has on her site, I'll show you one more time. This is how we can connect with you. Is that correct, Samara? That's the easiest way if we need to connect with you. Let me bring that back up. We'll go over to your site, visit you there. Where else can we connect with you?
There's a consultation page on the website as well. So like if you wanted to book an initial consultation, you can do that. I can't, your screen is really small, Charles. I can't see it, but it's okay.
I'll go to the consultation page while you're talking.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, let's get started.
There you go. So you can definitely book consultations and get in contact with us that way. We are on our social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And so you can definitely connect with us that way as well.
FYE Finance. And tell us what FYE Finance stands for again. I see it on the site.
Oh, focus, yield, elevate. All right. So we want to get you focused on a plan, right? We want you to yield a profit, and then we want you to grow. We want you to elevate.
All right. That's so awesome. I want to take a moment just to say thank you again. This has been great. The information, we'll definitely be connecting with you. You have an announcement. You're making a transition. You're doing something big now. And I mean, I'm at the top of the hour, but I want you to just share that quickly, because I think, to me, that's the statement of, if you do the right thing, take the right steps, right? You got something big coming up in your life right now. Do you mind sharing that?
No, I don't mind.
Okay.
So, and this is Charles. I didn't even share it with my FYE Finance family.
Oh,
first,
you did
it's
it?
okay.
Exclusive?
It's okay. It's an exclusive. So I am exiting corporate America. My last day is Monday, the 12th. I'm so excited. But again, like you said, Charles, is putting a plan in play, right? I had to make sure that, one, I had some longevity to fall back on. And two, just had to make sure that I talked that over with my husband. Like, I think as entrepreneurs, like, we forget sometimes to include our spouse in that conversation, but that's a big decision.
That's good.
And so I wanted to make sure that I talked it over with him, and he was comfortable with it. You know, we prayed on that thing, right? we had to make sure that was the right move. But I'm excited to say I fired my boss.
Right.
Okay?
Yay. That's awesome. That's cool. So I wanted to have you share that, and I didn't know it was going to be an exclusive, but thank you for that, because I think it speaks to, everything that you shared with us, you put in practice in your own lives, and we need to know that, the systems work and we can achieve that financial freedom and ultimately the financial wealth that we are seeking. And so thank you so much. Follow her on social media, join her every Tuesday for her lives, go to the website, get some of that great content that she has to offer. Start with a consultation. It is well worth it. Samara, if you would just hang tight for me 1 second while I let the folks go. I want to share with everyone about my upcoming guests. So next week, I'm going to be sitting down with Janice Bynum. She's an HR partner. We got to go to corporate America. What is corporate America doing about all of these race policies, ethical policies, equity laws, and justice and inclusion plans, what's going on. She'll share some of that stuff, but her personal experience as well in corporate America as a Black woman. So I want to invite you to come back with us next week on the 15th at 7 p.m. to hear from Janice Bynum. And again, every week we're going to just sit down with Change Champions to have these conversations. And so I just want to thank you all. If you haven't already, head over to charlesjackson.media. Connect with me there. My book, Low Down Good for Nothing, which really triggered all of this as I was writing the show, George Floyd, the civil unrest, it all just came together. And we are just in the process of bringing you just a real, raw, uncensored account of the Black man in America. So head over to charlesjackson.media, jump on my mailing list so you can be up to date when the pre-sales are out. Get your copy of the preface so you can go on this journey with me. And we're already digging into some of that material that is in that book. And as always, join us back next week for another wonderful episode. And I'm going to go because this show is not just me. I want to go ahead and give credit to where credit is due with my team that's behind the scenes each week, helping us bring you Race Talks Uncut. So I'm going to go into our credits right now, and then I hope to see you all back next week.